Thomas, your corporate leadership and team development expert, and welcome to another episode of the Employee Retention Series. Now, if you have not watched all the episodes, please go back, because what I'm doing is walking business leaders, entrepreneurs, CEOs, leadership of all levels, wherever you are, even if you're in management, and I'm walking you through an important process to understand why team members leave, how you can retain them and improve on that employee turnover. This is one of the most important things that we have to understand as leaders, to understand why people leave and remedy those areas. So I've been walking you all through different reasons why people leave, different reasons why people no longer want to work for that organization. Remember, individuals don't typically quit the organization, they typically quit the leader. So I want to walk you through processes and ways you can improve on how you interact, how you engage, the different strategies you can utilize to keep people in those seats so they can continue to push what? Your mission and your vision. So what are we talking about today? Today we're talking about the decision-making process. A lot of individuals, studies again, this is from the studies that I've been researching, show that a lot of individuals get frustrated with the decisions that leaders make. And if you're not good at decision making, maybe you're not doing the proper steps or taking the proper steps to truly ensure that you make effective decisions, individuals get frustrated, your team members get frustrated, they lose trust, and now they start to function a little differently. They're not as engaged, and soon they might not even trust your leadership to the point where they decide that they want to depart. So today we're going to talk about that decision-making process and that order of thought, how you go about approaching your decisions, and even having that self-awareness so you know, okay, maybe I am approaching problems one way instead of factoring these three ways. So let's get into that. There are three specific ways that we approach problems and how we go about thinking about things before we address it. So let's talk about the first one. The first one is in the area of considering who? The people first. The people first. So that is one area of, okay, if I'm making a decision, there's some people who instantly think about how will this affect the people. The second way that people go about making decision is thinking about the process first. Okay, the big boss, the CEO, the leader at that top level, or something comes across your table and you want to solve that problem, you might instantly think about, okay, here's step one, here's step two, here is step three. And the last area that people consider is what I call vision. This is my PPV process. Or you can even think about it, the big P, the big picture. Okay, it's considering the big picture. Okay, I want to accomplish this, and I know that this problem that I want to solve, I'm seeing the benefit of it on the long run, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, even a year from now. So this is typically how the order of thought occurs in the brain. The problem is you have some leaders that might just stay stuck here, that might stay stuck here, or they just stay stuck here. They're not considering the other variable, or it's something that you consider later on. So it's so important that we think from all three of these tiers, because every decision you make within your organization, within your business, within your team, that affects the stakeholders, the shareholders, all are going to affect or touch one of these areas. So as leaders, we have to make sure that when we are considering decisions and problem solving, we have to consider all these areas. So let's get into each one. So of course we have the people. When you're thinking about a decision you want to make and a solution, you have to think about how many people does it touch, from the clients to your team members, to even the other leaders within that organization or the other department that it's affecting. So within my organization, we had a process improvement event. And what we did is that we brought everybody together. And in that room, we had everybody that played a role in that process there, because what they saw was different. Maybe what this piece of the puzzle saw was different from this piece of the puzzle, and so on. So we all wanted to come together as a collective because we had this major problem that was affecting the clients, and we wanted to resolve it because it was an ongoing issue. So one of the first things that everybody was thinking about is how it affected the client, how it affected the customer. And the goal was to make sure that even the people within the process had an understanding of what's going on and was able to provide input, so we can see it from their lens, also come with a solution that was going to benefit everybody. And what happens a lot of times is, as leaders, we don't take time to identify what this solution that we might have came up with in a couple hours or in a couple minutes how it affects all the people that is a part of that process, from the client to the person processing it. We don't think about that. But by implementing certain processes, maybe some assessments, some feedback processes as you have these ideas, or maybe even come up with a list of them and say, hey, what do you think about these ideas, these remedies? Or even pulling in everybody that this affects and say, okay, this is what I came up. I know that there's a problem and I came up with some solutions, or I want to collaborate and come up with some solutions so we can remedy this issue. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? How do you think this is going to benefit us if we approach this problem a little different? Versus just coming up with a solution and saying, hey, this is how we're going to go about it. We have to make sure that the people that this touches and affects also have a word in it. And a lot of us leaders are not doing that. And again, that causes frustration. What if you come up with a solution and now that means that that team member has to spend another 30, 40 minutes on processing that thing? Or maybe it might take them longer to get to that remedy that maybe if you would have had a conversation with them, it would have been a shorter time frame. Now that's added workload. That's actually maybe causing more things to be backlogged just because you didn't have a simple conversation with that team member. And again, that results to stress, frustration, a lack of trust. And now they're not feeling that they're providing input or getting an opportunity to provide input, which is inclusion, right? And because they're not doing that, again, that causes frustration, and that might end up with them leaving that organization and end up quitting that leader, or that, again, that organization as a whole. So how often are you considering the people and ensuring that you have that level of inclusivity to make sure that everybody that's a part of the process has a say in those changes? So remember, consider the people. Now the next area is the process. And again, the great thing is if you are involving the people in the process, now you're able to come up with a really great process. But again, you have some individuals that lead instantly thinking about, okay, this is the process that's going to happen to fix it. And that's how my brain processes a lot of things. I always come up with a 5-step system or a 10-step system. I'm already envisioning how that problem is going to be solved step by step by step. And although I'm considering these steps in this system, if I don't go in and really identify what it takes to process each item and really make sure that the process is something that is effective, then again, I'm approaching a problem in a way that is not going to be beneficial maybe for everyone. And I want to make sure that I do that. So again, it's so good to get the people involved, because you can say, hey, I have this process in that I want to implement. What about this? How long do you think this is going to take? Oh, I can eliminate this step. Oh, great. I didn't even know that there were changes in the process or the systems, and we can take away 3, 4, 5 of these processes. Or realizing that maybe, again, by talking to the people or by you educating yourself on the changes and the updates, now you realize that, okay, maybe I'm going to pass this on to someone else to break down the process, maybe the team lead, somebody else that might be an expert in that area, versus you coming up with a process that doesn't even work. So again, yes, it's important to have a process in place, but who are you asking? Are you making sure you're doing the right research and really identify what it really takes in order for you to resolve this issue through this process? So again, people and process. And the last area, the big picture, the vision. Just imagine if you see that there's a problem, and again, the first thing you're thinking about, oh man, this is going to solve this major problem. This is going to be able to bring another $1 million, another 100,000, or this is going to be able to bring us 50 more clients. Whatever that big picture is, it's great to have that, to see, okay, by resolving this, this is going to improve revenue. This is going to improve X, Y, and Z. However, again, if you're not considering all these other pieces, then you might say, okay, we're going to remedy this thing and we're going to be able to increase our revenue by 2023 by $10,000 or $100,000. However, you didn't take time to identify these other areas, and what happens? Now, once you do or you implement a solution, now instead of you getting to that resolution by 2023 or those improvement marks that you have, it's going to take you additional years because you didn't consider the people or the process. Really getting to the weeds of all the minute areas and pieces that comes with resolving that issue. So Again, it's so important that we recognize how each one of these aspects plays a role in a vision coming to fruition. We have to identify the process. We have to make sure the people are involved and really go into all of these areas, because again, you have individuals that might have different input or different insight because they're the ones that are touching the systems and the programs. Those are the ones that are interacting with the clients, and maybe you don't know everything that comes into resolving an issue. So you always want to think about doing things from a collaborative sense to ensure that you're touching the people, and then asking the next question. Okay, now that we know, okay, now that we have everybody in the room, okay, what is the process going to look like? Let's map out the current process and find out, okay, why does it take this long? What kind of investments do we have to make, and maybe some additional technological advances that we want to invest in? Maybe it's hiring someone on, maybe it's updating a system, and now you can take away 5, 6, 7 steps. Or maybe you realize that maybe it's a certain division or department that requires more training. Or maybe there's some employee engagement issues, and now you start to unravel that there are additional issues within the process that needs to be fixed before you can even get to the big picture. And that's why it's so important that when we make decisions, we go through each one of these layers. And our brain naturally goes one way when we see a problem. Again, it might naturally go to the people, it might naturally go to the process, and it might naturally go to the vision. But you want to make sure that you are considering all of these. Okay, I thought about the people, but I want to make sure that the process is good, and I want to make sure that when we're talking about the big picture and the vision, that that's mapped out effectively. Because if you solely make decisions off of people, that might not result to a healthy solution. If you solely make decisions based off of the process, again, that might not solely get to that end goal. And if you're solely thinking about the big picture and not really thinking about all the different aspects of how to resolve a problem, then you might find yourself running into hiccups, and then you might commit to a time frame that is not realistic. So leaders out there, really make sure that you're taking time to go through this process when you're coming up with decisions. Really start thinking about, am I effective in decision making? And there's some other areas of decision making I'll go over through some bonus material, but really start thinking about it. And if you want to identify what your order of thought is, I do have an assessment that you can utilize so you can specifically know what is my order of thought, so you can identify those blind spots, because there are some people that know how to incorporate all three. My level of self-awareness now has allowed me to start thinking about things, especially the big picture. I recently started to really consider the big picture, especially as I moved up in rank. I realized that I had to look at things from a strategic lens and how it was going to impact the organization years and years on down, and who else this affects just within a couple years. But again, it took time and self-awareness. So for a lot of leaders out there, they don't take time to identify what it actually takes to solve a problem, or how I typically go about solving problems. And by you taking time and just identifying that, now you know what areas you want to remedy and really start to hone in on that skill. So now you can be a full circle decision maker. So I hope that information helped. Again, reach out to me if you want to identify your specific order of thought. And remember, individuals don't typically quit the organization, they typically quit the leader. And that's why you need leadership development. And that's why you need to continue to build upon the self-awareness and the information you need to continue to build upon those skills, so you can be more effective in retaining those team members. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, share this with the leader that needs this information. Go back and watch the other episodes, and I will catch you guys another time.